Hello, everybody. So I know I am late posting this chapter, and for that, I do apologize. In my defense, I had finals, so that was really fun. Um, I am, of course, going to be posting an extra chapter because of that. Also, in this chapter, just a few disclaimers before, the story starts. For one, I'm going to be reading, or rather reacting to chapter 10 before chapter 11 is going to be read. And if you don't want to listen to that, I'm going to put a timestamp or do a chapter thing. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But in to preface that, I am just going to say I do laugh a little bit. I do make some jokes, even though it's a very heavy topic. It's just the way I cope. It's not me saying that I'm making light of this or anything like that. It's just the way I cope with stuff like that. I'm just doing an obligatory, just in case anybody had any feelings about it. Also, the way I chose, I suppose, to do my reaction, I didn't want to just read the chapter and go, oh, ooh, I kind of wanted to add my own thoughts in it. So it is me talking a lot. I do blab. And I'm really sorry about that if that's not what you came there for. So of course, just feel free to skip it and everything. It's just kind of me giving a little input into everything. I think that's it for my preamble thing. So please enjoy. I hope you guys like the story. I'm just gonna say, if the first thing you think of to calm your biologically engineered brainwashed child is to, how do I say this? Do this, then no, you're not a good mother. What the fuck? This wasn't her fault, damn it. But she had his best interests at heart. Shut up. She was hungry for the base reward of manipulating him to satisfy herself. She knew doing so would lead to a path that would ruin him and potentially make him even more obsessed. Wow, really? No. You could have never thought. This would not be a departure, but rather a return to a form, if you could call it that. And unlike Lily and Gladian, he'd enjoy it. Girl, look, I'm gonna tell you straight up. Okay, yeah, maybe he will enjoy it. But here's the issue. You made him that way. You made him that way. Oh my gosh, she's so delusional. She is so delusional. And I love it. But God, she's so delusional. I like the wording. She slithered out of bed, clad in a plain black nightdress, barefoot, her hair no longer styled as it usually was. Her green eyes, radioactive, stared through the dark. It almost gives she's, in this moment, she's not the perfect Lusamine that she presents herself as. She's the predatory Lusamine, if that makes sense. Footsteps were silent, slow and measured, a specter she was, and a terrifying, commanding one at that. One with all her authority and strength befitting her titles. The door opened as if in a vacuum, no noise, no resistance, as it should be. That foreshadowing. With her fingers ensnaring the handle to the door, the voice of reason spoke choice words. Do you really want to do this? And the monster did not reply. You can't hurt him, the monster growled. It had come too far already to be denied this prey. She slipped into the room and shut the door. That's just such amazing choices of words there. I don't know how to describe it, but I imagine in this moment, too, she wouldn't sound like the Lusamine that usually talks to Sun. Because the way I imagine Lusamine and the way I try to portray her voice, it isn't her. Like, when she talks to Sun, she's almost meek, almost too gentle. But when she talks to Faba, or when she talks to Wick, or anybody else, she gives off the boss, the perfect girl. But in this scenario, I feel like she wouldn't sound like either. I feel like she would sound primal. That's the word. I feel like she would sound primal. I don't know how to explain that better, but I don't know how to explain it better, but that's how I feel like she would sound. The fact that he's still smiling is kind of sad, to be honest. Because, yes, current Sun wants this, but if was any of the first Sun left, that would be awful. She almost did him a mercy, I feel, by erasing his memories. Girl, his tone was all wrong. He was meant to be scared, not enthusiastic. Lusamine, you need help. You need help. Wick, look, at first, Wick, I was kind of on your side because, if I was looking at this woman, I'd be a little scared too. But, all you have to do is place cameras around the house, capture what she's doing, and then send it to the police and go here you go, people, she's a bad person. And then you'd have the public opinion on your side. I know that's so easy, but still. I'm just saying. She couldn't lose control. She had to be in charge or else it'd all be worthless. That's kind of interesting because it gives a lot of insight into Lusamine's character of having to always be in control. That's why I feel that's again why I kind of like the meek voice when Lusamine is talking to Sun. Because I feel with Sun, she doesn't have that control. At least, not as easily. I don't know. I haven't read the entire story, so I have no clue. For all I know, it could just be a funny haha. But it spoke of another victim, another slave, another toy to use as she pleased and win. And she'd never been scared of defeat until Sun arrived on the paradise for a second time. Forced into her child, her property, he was hers. Wow. I just love how beautifully this is written. I cannot get over just the writing and the choice of words. It's just it's perfectly horrible. Reaching her bedroom, she fell onto her bed, bit her pillow. She screamed. Look. No shit. Okay, I'm sorry, but you, and she's surprised. I don't know, this girl, oh my god. All right, guys, so that was chapter 10, Crazy Ride. Again, I'm really sorry if you don't like to listen to me yap a bunch. I honestly cut it down a lot. And I'm also the type of reader where I get a lot of feelings after each paragraph, basically, and I don't know. I hope it was at least enjoyable to listen to. I don't know. I hope it wasn't boring, at least. I hope it wasn't boring. Anyway, we're gonna move on to chapter 11. So yeah, Perfect Sun by that one guy with that one ship, read by Munchin on Mochiko. Chapter 11, number 889, CC8. Guzma had been given a second chance he didn't want to waste, Every island on Alola was big, but Meli Meli was the smallest of the four, meaning the least ground to cover. And still, Gladian and Lily evaded him. Desperation gave way to fear. Fear that they may escape, and the president came down on him like a ton of bricks. They'd searched the island over several times and found nothing at all, even with grunts camping outside hotels and the like to watch for the two. So, Guzma's agitation was understandable. The most irritating thing about it all was that he had them, and they ran off. He was the big, bad boss of Team Skull, and somehow a kid had smacked him upside the head and got away. He'd need some real muscle for this job. Not all of Team Skull was present on the island, but it would be soon. Mobilizing the whole team was a rare occurrence, but when it happened, the team always seemed to get what it needed. The takeover of Po Town was one such time where the whole team had been present. With the extra manpower, Guzma had decided to take a break and go over to a little cove he'd heard about from the local grunts. And of course, they were there. Of course they were. Guzma formed a simple, effective plan. He grabbed Lily first, then had Gladian under control with a knife to his sister's throat. Guzma was very good at simple, effective plans such as those. The locals might have thought Team Skull were pointless and misguided riffraff, but Guzma thought of himself as more than that. And the knife, the violence it perpetrated, was confirmation of that. "Please," the girl was begging. "Please don't hurt me. Please."
"Shut up," Guzma grunted. "You need to relax. As for you, Gladian, you gonna come quietly now, huh?"
He put the sharp edge very close to Lily's flesh, making her scream and beg even louder.
"Let her go,"
Gladian demanded. Guzma laughed.
"Are you stupid, kid?"
"Are you?" Guzma was taken aback. "What?" He looked left and right, wondering if there was some sort of prank afoot.
"Our mother won't let you hurt Lily, will she?"
Gladian said with some confidence. And he was right.
"So let her go."
"Well," Guzma said, only now realizing Gladian was correct.
"I'm still not gonna let her go."
Lily was still now.
It seems we've got a disagreement."
"Impasse," Gladian said.
"Impasse,"
Guzma repeated.
"How about I get some of my goons to come solve it?"
Gladian struggled with himself. There had to be a way to escape. He could just leave Lily. That idea was disgusting, and he crushed it. He could attack Guzma again, but this time it probably wouldn't work. He had to try. He was moving without thinking, towards Guzma. "All right," he said, sounding amicable. Hopefully Guzma would drop his guard and he could pull something off. Once Gladian was close enough, Guzma put the knife away.
"See? That wasn't so difficult, was it?"
He moved Lily in his grip, keeping a firm hold on her arm. Gladian was nearly close enough to... Guzma let go of Lily suddenly, pushing her to the ground, and swung his wrist at Gladian, knocking him down too.
"You don't fuck with me!"
Guzma screamed in between punches, beating down on Gladian the same way Gladian had attacked him. "No!" Lily cried, but neither of the other two heard her.
"You!"
Guzma pointed back at her, Gladian comatose on the coarse sands of the bay.
"You shut up!"
He grabbed Gladian to his feet, kicking up drifts of sand in the motion. Gladian coughed and spat, blood running down his chin from the split lip.
"What is wrong with you?"
Guzma bellowed at the boy in his grip.
"Can't take a beating."
"More than you know," Gladian hissed.
"Not from me, you haven't."
Guzma punched him in the stomach. Hard. Gladian doubled over and spat more vicious blood onto the shore.
"You should be glad. As far as I know, Prez has a surprise for you."
He glared down at Lily.
"Get up."
Lily sniffed and slowly, carefully stood. She held her hands in front of her in a clear sign of surrender. Guzma huffed in approval.
"See? She knows what to do.
Sun woke up alone. He recalled last night and rubbed his wrist shyly as he sat up, a smile and blush on his face. He took his pillow in his arms and hugged it, squeezing his eyes shut, his smile turning into a big grin. She loved him. He rocked back and forth with the cushion in his hold, blissfully burying his face into it to laugh to himself quietly. Once he recovered from his brief afterglow, he got dressed as per usual, admiring himself as he put the crystal collar on. He smoothed down his shirt and adjusted his trousers in the mirror, continuing to stare at himself. He watched as his smile faded from his face. Something seemed vaguely wrong with his reflection. He got a little closer to it, putting his hand against the surface, his nose almost touching it. He blinked. His eyes were green. He blinked. His eyes were now blue. His head hurt. He took a step back, closing and rubbing his eyes. Upon reopening them, they were green again. He blinked a couple more times to make sure. He put it down to a trick of the light. He waited in his room, calm again. Normally, his mother would come to him in the morning to take him wherever she was going. Today, however, she was late. Almost an hour late. He knew she wouldn't appreciate him waking her, so he was conflicted about going to check on her himself. He deliberated it for a moment, but eventually decided he had to make sure she was okay. Mother. His voice, so adorable. Son? She looked up from her hands where she'd been hiding her face most of the night. Her eyes were red from crying, and she looked terrible from a mixture of lack of sleep and scratching at her face in agitation. Sun took a step back at the sight. He paused, and then resumed moving to her side. Son, oh my precious boy. She hugged him and burst into tears again, wailing loudly as Sun patted her on the back awkwardly. Mother, what's wrong? Sun spoke in her ear, his breath tickling her cheek. He was holding her if she might fall apart if he let go, and that made it hurt all the more. Son, I did something I shouldn't have. She let go and looked at his perfect face. He returned the stare, eyes full of compassion and softness. I'm sorry, son. Sun's expression shifted, now showing some confusion. What did you do? Do you mean when we... Son, she trembled, her voice high as she pulled him in again. I'm so sorry. I did that to you. Mother, it's okay. No, it's not okay, she quaked. He wouldn't understand. Son, I just want you to be safe. She had done something terrible by taking him, and now she had done something even worse. Son, my sweet boy. Mother, please, he muttered into her ear. Listen to me. Lusamine broke down into more racking sobs, even louder than before. Sun let her go. Mother. He stayed with her through her breakdown. She had no grasp on herself, nothing to cling to, just crying until she no longer could. The scene was dramatic. Sun crouched over her, her hunched form framed in his shadow, her hair straggly and untamed, falling in sheets to the plain white floor as she wailed. She kneeled there, screaming to nothing, at everything. What was wrong with her? After a few minutes of this raw, expressive pain, the agony in her soul finally began to relent. Lusamine still shuddered, but was composed at last. Then she felt Sun touching her again. He had his arms around her stomach, leaning his head against the back of her neck, like a lover she had long forgotten. He was whispering words of comfort to her that she didn't hear, only the soft, sweet tone of his voice. Her sadness evaporating rapidly. She reached over her shoulder to pat him, and he did something quite unexpected that she was nowhere near prepared for. He took one of the fingers that she had extended and slipped it into his mouth, sucking on it. Lusamine, her face invisible to Sun, opened her mouth in shock at the sensation. She wanted to shrug him off and scream at him for not grasping the situation, but she couldn't. Losing herself to the sensation of his little tongue running over the tip of her digit was too easy. Hearing him kiss it, the wet saliva sticking to the smoothness of his lips over it, was too much. He enjoyed it. He loved it. What was wrong with him? She withdrew it slowly, feeling a single strand of his spit still connecting him to her for a moment before it broke. "Son," she murmured, turning to face him. He looked so calm, so proud, so utterly loving towards her. "Mother." They embraced one another. Sun and Lusamine clung to each other in kind. Lusamine had control of herself again. They stood together, Lusamine with her hands on Sun's shoulder. I need to get ready for the day. Sun, I may be a while." "Okay," Sun said cheerfully. "I'll wait for you." "Are you sure? You can go and see the Pokemon if you'd prefer. I can get Wick to look after you and meet you there." Sun didn't even blink. "No, I'll wait." "Very well." She kissed him on the cheek. He beamed up at her and hesitated before leaving, pausing to look back at her. She was still beautiful, even with all that stress of the night acting on her. The moment was gone. Lusamine tasted the middle finger of her right hand, the one he had sucked on. Her tongue tingled as she did so, but the sensation didn't last. She was left in a deep thought as she withdrew it as slowly as she had from his lips. Lusamine paced in the shower in a haze, stripping off and ignoring her reflection, knowing she'd only see the worst of herself. She knew she looked a state, and it was time to fix that. Her bathroom was ensuite, completely black in contrast to the white bedroom. It was just as sheer as anything else in the foundation. She switched on the shower and stood beneath the stream of hot water, leaning on the wall, emotionally exhausted. She thought back to when Sun had changed into what she'd wanted him to be, what she wanted him to think, the first time he wore what she wanted him to, when he was her son at last, and wondered if he had thought about her in the shower, if maybe he had. Maybe. Once fully dressed and prepared, hair styled, makeup on, carefully examined for any sort of wrongness to her appearance, Lusamine encountered some good news. Guzma's message. "Got him." She replied, imagining herself a queen, sitting on her throne and speaking down to some loyal servant. "Bring them to me." "Son." She pushed the doors open to a room wide with gusto. "Yes, Mother." He had been waiting for her as promised, curled up on the couch, another of his old habits that were similar to the Pokemon he adored so much. Her heart swelled at the sight of him rushing to her side, and she took his hand, smiling down at him. "Today, son, we will be meeting your brother and sister. I'm sure it'll be a nice surprise for both of them." Sun nearly bounced up and down with excitement, squeezing her hand. "I can't wait." "Neither can I, son. Neither can I." So that was chapter 11. Let me know if you guys would prefer for me to split this into 2 videos, because I decided to put the chapter 10 and the chapter 11 here. I don't know if that's too much or too boring. I don't know. Just let me know what you think about it so I can fix that for next time. I will say that I did have to cut a scene at the end, not because I didn't like it, but purely because I am fairly certain I would get reported to YouTube if I did read it, because I wouldn't say it's explicit in my opinion, but I think it's like too explicit for YouTube. So I'm not reading that, unfortunately. Um, I know that there's probably going to be more scenes like that in more chapters. So let me know if you guys would prefer I like censor it and like read it, but like the censored version, or if it's better for me to just skip it like I did and kind of give you the, well, I mean, there's no cliff notes for this one, I feel. It's pretty straightforward. If you did want to read that scene that I skipped, please go check out the original story. All props to the creator, of course, because it's such an amazing story. So yeah,